I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support. Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to the Skinwalker review episode 2 review of Skinwalker Ranch on the History Channel. I should probably come up with an opening for this. It doesn't matter. We're just here to talk everything Skinwalker Ranch and episode 2 of Skinwalker Ranch. We're going to be reviewing it today, you guys. Before we get started, I have to warn you, spoiler alert. We're going to be spoiling the entire episode. So if you haven't seen it or you don't want anything given away, don't watch this episode. I don't want you to get upset with us. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat. Hello, and thank you to all of you in the chat, to my moderators. I want to say thank you to my members and my Patreon members. Thank you guys so much. And any super chats that come our way, of course, thank you. And if you can't support us with the almighty dollar, don't sweat it. All the shows here are free. Every single one of them. So enjoy at your leisure. Let's get started with the show, shall we? We've got a huge panel today. And who knows, we may get one more in. We shall see. Without further ado, let's bring them on. Dragon.
Hey. How's it going, Luis?
Had to bring you out first, buddy.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're going to be talking... Yeah, that's right. We're going to be talking Skinwalker episode 2 with Bryant the Dragon Arnold from the show. How fun is that? You ready for this, man? Last year, I feel like we were tough but fair. You agreed, I feel like.
Yeah. I like it. I want the feedback. You know what? A lot of your criticisms are my same criticisms. So
yeah, I love it, man. Well, that's what we love about you guys there, is that you guys are not afraid of hard questions or being questioned about things that happen, so that's fun. All right, let's bring on the rest of the crew, shall we? Miss Cristina Gomez, how are you?
Hi there.
Welcome.
I'm so excited. This is the best episode so far of all of the seasons, so I'm pretty excited to cover it today.
All right. Wow. Coming out of the gate swinging there. I love it. All right. Well, of course, we're going to definitely bring on Jazz Shaw next, because he's our resident Skinwalker fan, loves the show, and has been digging into a lot of the stuff that we were talking about last week, and may give us some answers on some of the things we were talking about last week. So we'll get into that in a moment. And of course, UFO Jane Kyle.
Hey.
Mr. Ratherby Squidding, how you guys doing?
Doing well. Great panel we got lined up today.
We've got a killer panel today.
It's gonna be fun.
I'm trying to go boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. This is great. Very diverse. Very all of the things 2022, right? All right, let's get started. So we had the second episode premiere yesterday. And it was the title of the episode is called Tic Tac 2. So that was fun. In reference to, of course, Gary Voorhees and our friend Jeremy McGowan. And we also had Jason Turner from the UAPX team. They brought out the Osiris. And I guess let's start there. I thought I would never see the day the Osiris on Skinwalker Ranch, because I know that relationship started out kind of rocky, and here we are. Now we're on the show, and I see the Osiris rolling up, and I'm like, wow, McGowan's got to be loving every second of this. I know he had fun when he was out there, but I guess we'll start with Dragon, since he's our our main guest here. Welcome, sir. What did you think of this episode? What did you think of the Osiris, I guess, when you first laid eyes on her?
So, look, Jeremy even admits that thing's been put together with duct tape and baling wire in some places. But
Yeah.
the equipment was all functioning very well when we got there. He ran a bunch of tests. Everything was fine. I was a little bit surprised, with the TV show, there's oftentimes where they reach out and want certain individuals out for certain things. I mean, obviously we want, to get as much equipment as we can on the property to monitor what's going on and things like that. It was a little bit rocky in the beginning because, Eric's very, very careful with who and what he brings on the property. He wants everything, vetted out. He doesn't just want everybody. I mean, you can't imagine the number of emails and requests. It's like, oh, I have this particular widget that's going to figure out what's going on and so on and so forth. And so, with a little bit of prodding from the production company and things like that, Jeremy and his colleagues from UAPX came out, and you know what? It was interesting. It was interesting stuff. I feel for Jason. That was a rough thing for him. And I'm glad they didn't show a lot because, in respect to him and things like that, and I'll leave it at that. His episode was much worse than it even played on television. So.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that from my perspective in a second. But Cristina, what did you think about seeing the Osiris on Skinwalker Ranch? How cool was that?
It was pretty exciting. I have spoken to Jeremy several times on my show, and every time when he speaks about Osiris, his face just lights up like it's like one of his children. And that also showed on the show as well when he was getting in respect to some of the details of his vehicle, and you could just see the pride that he had in it. And while a lot of it, like you had mentioned, Dragon, was attached with duct tape and things like that, because he made it with his own hands, and because many of us have spoken to him and have heard about the theoretical data that can be collected and some even physical data, I think that it's pretty fantastic to have a mobile data collecting lab. I think in all respect, we probably all want one at some point in time, and he's able to have one. So I thought it was pretty fantastic to be able to see that on Skinwalker Ranch, but then also having him and his team go into some detail about the Tic Tac back in 2004 with the USS Nimitz. So I did love that aspect of bringing ufology in with all of this weird phenomena that happens at Skinwalker Ranch.
Jazz, what did you think, bud?
Oh, I enjoyed that aspect of it. It was surprising. I'm not one of the cool kids. I'm not in the inside club. But yeah, I've spoken to Gary and Jason and Jeremy before on a number of occasions, followed their work. I know the other non-Skinwalker projects, actually plural, that they've been working on. I'm still waiting to see how much they actually produce. I know they have a new product that just came out recently that I haven't been able to check out fully. But yeah, you're talking about people that put their own money, on the line, put it in, without like a corporate sponsor initially or anything. And what do we always talk about here? You want more data. You want people collecting data. Maybe that's going to be Avi Loeb. Maybe it's going to be Harvard. Maybe it's stuff you pry out of the government. But there's nothing wrong with citizens collecting data. And to see him show up on the show, I was like, whoa, really? But it's like, well, that's what they sort of built it for. So yeah, I thought it was kind of cool that they were invited and they came out and did that.
Jane, what did you think of the Osiris and sort of what happened when they first got there?
Oh my gosh, I loved it. It's real life Ghostbusters. I'm so jealous of Jeremy. Like, it's so awesome. It looks more like the Jurassic Park Jeep, though, if you ask me, which is just as cool. I would recommend, I don't know, I feel like we could take it to the next level as far as just pure optics. I'm not an engineer or anything like that. With like some extra like audacious rap or something like that around it. But I loved it. I love seeing Gary and we all know Jeremy and that UAPX. So it was a great way to start the episode for sure.
Rather, what are your thoughts, bud?
Yeah, no, I loved it. They've had third-party experts out there before, but no one like UAPX that is really known and respected in the community. It's kudos to Skinwalker Ranch and Brandon for bringing these guys on, because that they're going to tell it how it is. They're not going to collude with the production company if anyone thinks that sort of stuff happens. So, major respect and brings a lot of credibility.
Yeah, of course, I'd love to see the Osiris just parked out there and see. I understand what Dragon's saying. Like, I think just the drive from McGowan's house to where Skinwalker Ranch is gonna bumble around a lot of equipment, like rough roads to get on ranches and things like that. So when he parks it, I don't know. I didn't ask him this part, but I'm sure that from a logistics standpoint, he's got to go through every single nut and bolt to make sure that everything is working properly. And so I'm sure it was frustrating as hell when he finally got to this ranch, and every time you guys launched a rocket, the Osiris just goes down. I'm curious, Dragon, like, do you think those technical failures were more due to the fact because of, like you said, like, the equipment is not at 100%, or was it something that you think the ranch was doing?
Well, that's the thing about it. It's really not that bad. I mean, the drive out there is really not that bad. Yeah. And we positioned him out in the field there just to the west of the command center that has a good view of the triangle area. It's pretty smooth. We drive through that area all the time. And he ran all the tests. Everything was working. The cameras were all functioning. It was collecting data multiple times. And then it seemed like every time we'd get down to the countdown for when we were actually launching the rockets, because what Travis does is he wants everybody to go radio silent because he's afraid the possibility of, some sort of static interference that's going to inadvertently ignite the rocket. So he's like, okay, we're going to shut the radios down. We're going to shut everything down for 10 seconds, leading up to it. And so they weren't doing any of that. I mean, they were a safe enough distance away and everything. And so as soon as the countdown got to 3, then it was, the thing would shut down. It happened 8 times. All 8 times.
8 times?
Not just one. Yep, not 1, 2, 3.
We saw 3.
Times.
Yeah, we saw 8. 3 times.
We launched 8 rockets, and he never had all of his equipment up and running for any of them.
Wow.
So,
he's in the chat. I tried to get him on the show today, but he just couldn't make it. He had to pick up his daughter, so he's probably listening and just on the road right now. But he said, I spent the day before going everything in the hotel parking lot, that's exactly what I figured. That's exactly what I figured.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
because I just know from the way the conversation went so far, if we don't clarify this, there's going to be questions later that we're going to have to circle back and answer. When you say Travis wanted things like shut down for no interference as an electronics guy, I understand that totally. Just to clarify, you're not saying that the Osiris was intentionally shut down.
No,
then it was
no,
time
not
for
at
launch.
all.
It wouldn't come back up. It was up and running, and it just went off on its own.
That's correct.
Is that true?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And
I think people would ask about that.
Right. I get, and I thought about that after I said it. Like when he said it was just like, for example, you've got production guys that are always talking in their, on their walkies and everything like that. And they didn't want people that were in that area to click the button on their walkie because they carry the little earpiece, you know what I mean? And have that somehow, triggered to ignite the rocket. So that's all.
Dragon, can I ask, did it shut down right before the rocket launch? Because the only thing I could think of is, was there something about the rocket launch and that could have caused some interference?
The thing about it, and I saw a little bit of shade about, oh, that's really sophisticated. They're using, wires connected to the battery of a Ram pickup truck to launch rockets. Well, that was part of the reason, was the fact that we you know, we have remote igniters and things like that, but we wanted all of that taken out of the loop. So there was really nothing there to like cause any sort of interference to do it. I mean, it literally was during the countdown, we'd get ready to touch the cables to the battery and they'd be like, I'm dead again. And then the rocket would go off.
I'm just picturing in my brain an edited version of the show where every time he hits the wires, the computer shut off in the Osiris. God, that would be hilarious.
But the thing is the Osiris was several hundred. It was
I know.
Yards away.
I know. I'm just in my brain. I'm just editing that in my brain, and that would be hilarious. But again, Jeremy chimes in. He says the inverter, battery backup, and laptop with its own battery all failed at the same time. 6 out of 8 launches.
And the way that they edited that, when as soon as the Osiris just kind of shut down, he's like, you gotta be kidding me. And then the rocket launched. And I was so pleased with the editing when it came to the TV show. And I don't think I've ever laughed that hard in any show of Skinwalker Ranch. So while it is unfortunate of what happened, the editing was so perfect. And I was laughing for maybe like 20, 30 seconds straight of like, this is just so comical. I mean, just something out of a comedy movie and not something that you would consider to be happening in real life.
That's funny because I felt like I was getting frustrated like they were. Like, I was like, damn it. Like, really? The Osiris shut off again? There's no way. And then when it went,
but it was the first time I was referring to.
Oh, the first time. Yeah, no. Yeah. I was like, it struck me as like, man, that's weird. The second time I'm like, come on. Third time I'm like, all right, that's just what the hell's going on. There's no way. But now we're saying 6 out of 8 times. So that was pretty wild.
Sometimes there just aren't enough rockets. If you guys know Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear Travis say that.
Well, yeah, I think it's almost more interesting that it's 6 out of 8 times that failed rather than 8 out of 8 times, because that kind of shows that it wasn't just a systemic problem. It was very coincidental, but yeah, it wasn't, it doesn't seem like it was a problem with their experimental setup. It was something weird.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to a second to Jason Turner, but because before we ever even got to the rockets, and we kind of just brushed past this part of it, and this is the part that I did get to talk to Jeremy about. And when he told me this, I was like, wow, man, that's wild. Like, that sounds absolutely wild. And then when I saw it, I hit him up again. I was like, dude, was that real? He's like, 100% real that he reacted that way. Because I mean, look, we're like 1 degree of separation from these people now, especially Dragons here, right? Like, there's one thing I know about Osiris and that team. They're not bullshitters, they don't exaggerate things. They're there for the information, and some of their frustrations, I'm sure, happened with you as well, Dragon. Like when they were doing their last film, the Tear in the Sky film, they shared frustrations about the production team being in places they shouldn't have been when they're trying to collect those electromagnetic data points and things like that. So I'm sure that's frustrating when you're trying to document this and at the same time run an experiment. So, we got to consider that as well. But I'm curious to know, because I think the last face I ever want to see if I'm ever on that ranch is the face you had when you were standing outside of that silo and going like, if this happens one more time, you're out of here. Like, you're gone. So, what was going through your mind when things like that happen? Like, what's the line in the sand, I guess, for you before you're like, okay, you know what? We got to get you out of here.
Into the cage.
Yeah.
The cage. I mean, obviously he came a long way to be there and he wanted to be there. And the information that they were sharing, like, I wish that more of that discussion could have been shared on the show because it was really interesting. I mean, hearing their experience of actually seeing the Tic Tac the way that they did, and so on and so forth, it was really great. They were really good. And so when that started to happen, we wanted to see, because last year Travis had the same type of a scenario happen where he was starting to get swimmy headed or whatever, and we had to throw him in the timeout silo. And so that's that's the most immediate thing we can do to try and see what we can do to block, whatever it is that's causing this.
How long was he in there?
He was probably in there a good 20, 25 minutes.
Wow.
So it was quite a while. But, at the end of the day, the line in the sand is if someone's not getting better or they are fearful or whatever, then, all bets are off. And in fact, what wasn't shared is they actually came back to do like their, off-camera interviews to talk about the things that were happening. I mean, out of scene interviews. And so Jason came back and was like, he'd had a rough night's sleep. He was having issues with his eyes, things like that. And in fact, he came back and they wanted to do his interview, and he was visibly shaken by the whole thing. And just, you could tell he was scared to death to be there. So I actually walked over to the production. I asked him point blank. I said, "Do you want to go?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want to get out of here." So I walked over to the production trailers and told him, I said, "Yep, Jason's leaving." And they're like, "What? No, we've got to get these interviews." And I said, "I'm sorry. He is scared. He doesn't want to be here. He's not feeling well." And so we got him off the property, and he was done. So you'll notice that his interview there was done in a green screen later, where he was off of the ranch somewhere else. So
that's one of the areas where I had one of my biggest questions for tonight. So
go for it, Jazz. What's your biggest question?
I wanted to get Dragon's perspective on this. It happened last season with these incidents, and everybody's talking about radiation. But I think a lot of people that follow the technical end are probably struggling, like I was, to understand exactly what we're talking about in that sense. And without going into any details, I can't yet. The last couple of weeks, I've been involved in a series of interviews with 3 different people who worked on Skinwalker Ranch before you guys got there. Sort of in that period after the big Bigelow stuff, and later on, one person who worked for one of the former ranch managers, and they had experiences like that too. But when we say radiation, it was mentioned in the show, and I don't remember who said it, said we even had a Geiger counter. Okay. And then we're seeing various devices that are measuring things. I've worked in nuclear power when I was younger, and I have to write about that. And also in radar, I know the difference between electromagnetic radiation and stuff. Radiation from stuff like uranium doesn't just show up and go away randomly. If there's a whole bunch of uranium there, everybody's getting irradiated all the time.
Right.
If it's something more like electromagnetic radiation that you would get standing in front of a radar antenna with a high power, or sticking your head in a microwave, that's different. That can come and go. So can you enlighten us a little bit? What were they using to measure that, and what sort of radiation are we talking about that people are suffering ill effects from that could only affect one person in a group?
It's more, and that's the strange thing about it, is having people sit around that have both been affected by things previously, and some of us that have never been affected by anything really on the ranch, and to have it almost as if it's targeted, certain individuals for whatever reason. We're trying to figure out what in the world it is, and it's not. We're not talking about like nuclear type radiation. It's electromagnetic, microwave energy, things like that. And we have strange spikes. And even, you'll see some more of that this season. I can't give it away, but it's so disturbing because, like you said, that type of thing is not supposed to be a transient type of, a thing to make a Geiger counter go off and spike to where it looks like it's dangerous levels. I mean, obviously that didn't happen in this one, but you might see something like that. And so, just like in season 1, when Travis, got radiation burns and his, detector went off and things like that. And then we brought the crew back in to do a full sweep of the area. We We wouldn't let anybody around there till they came back at it, and there was nothing. It was barely background. And, that type of stuff is not supposed to happen. So, that's part of the mystery of what is something that can move around, produce that type of, an effect to where, it causes bodily harm and then be gone, whether it's in minutes or days or whatever.
But also,
I'm going to shut up
people out.
and get in the background. But one last thing, because I was out researching this, because I love the tech stuff and it's what I used to do. It was mentioned during the show that big spike that was seen frequently goes into the 1.6 gigahertz range. And that's where these spikes are being seen, right? I went and had to go look that up. That's in the L band. It's not totally unknown. It actually is used. It's very rarely used, only by a few things. But for anybody who wants to check that out, go look at L band radiation. You know what uses L band radiation at 1.6 gigahertz?
Please tell us.
Satellite phones, not cell phones, not normal communications. Satellite phones. That's an ideal frequency for anything that goes from the surface of the Earth out into orbit. So does that mean anything? I don't know. I'm just saying I found it an interesting data point.
Excellent data point, Jazz.
That is good. I'm going to share that. In fact, I'm writing that down because I'll forget.
Well, yeah, I hope Brandon and the boys are watching.
That was one of the most fascinating, parts of me was that they correlated that 1.6 gigahertz spike with, Jason's illness. I guess, my question is, how often does the spectrum spike on that 1.6 gigahertz? Is that a semi-often thing, or was that very, unusual and only happens when, Jason got sick?
What? We pick it up, and it's usually when there's something anomalous going on the property. We pick it. I mean, It's something we've been chasing since the first, for a long time. And it seems that it, for whatever reason, you'll see the entire spectrum start bouncing, and you'll see a spike at the 1.6, and shit goes haywire.
And that showed in the last episode. As soon as Jason had mentioned what he was going through, Travis went outside, Eric went on his laptop and began to search the skies and search the area for anything that they saw that could have been peculiar. Also on the topic with Jason, while it could be a little bit easier to fake a headache, which I'm aware that he didn't, but for those that may not believe that, what is more difficult to fake was when the cameramen were in the silo with Jason. In one scene, his eyes were just bloodshot. And while he was rubbing his face often, having that kind of redness right around the eyes and actually in the eyes is not something that you can easily do upon yourself. So to me, that showed that he was probably going through some type of like high blood pressure of some kind, which could have led either to those spikes, those that 1.6 gigahertz, or it could have been to the stress level or something else entirely. So that's something that really caught my attention more than the headaches, was just his totally bloodshot eyes.
So I was just,
go ahead.
That was a really good thing that you noticed, Cristina, and I was like, oh, headaches and eye redness. Like, I wonder if there's any there. I mean, I don't know. There is cluster headaches. You do get puffy eyes and eye redness. Apparently, I don't have cluster headaches. I do have migraines. I mostly grew out of them. My son has them. So my question, I feel like this must have been asked in the episode. I'm sure it was behind the scenes. But does Jason suffer from migraines? Because they can just, hit you out of the blue and be pretty debilitating. So he doesn't have even like a history of.
No, not from what he said. And like I said, I could see that, yes, his head hurt, but I mean, his hands were shaking. He went back to the hotel after that, and he said in the middle of the night he felt like one of his eyes was going to pop out, and he came back and he looked pretty rough. Being there on site there, I can tell you that the last thing he wanted to do was insert himself into any kind of a narrative. He was probably the most soft-spoken of the crew and things like that. I don't know what happened. It's strange. It's the strange thing. And I've wanted to do this, and I hope we do it in the future, is I want each of us to get a full, like physical panel taken to see if there's something within our physical makeup that makes us more prone to, the effects of the ranch. I want to do like some brain scans, things like that, to see if it's a mental, thing, whatever it is, just because it's so strange that you can have multiple people standing right next to each other, and it's one individual that feels like, their head's gonna pop, or, when we had the rocket guys out last year, he felt like he was in, an MRI machine. All the hair on his body was standing on end, and we were standing right next to him, not feeling anything. So I honestly, that's one of the things. It's scary because it almost feels as if it's a targeted type thing, but for what reason?
I agree with Baby Goat, by the way.
What did Baby Goat say? Almost sounds like Havana syndrome. Yeah.
Almost sounds like Havana syndrome, which is kind of weird. And I've had to write about Havana syndrome a lot, and nobody really has answers. But
the closest thing that we can compare Tom's injury to is that very thing too.
Are those kind of symptoms affiliated with heavy use of a satellite phone? Does anybody know?
You know how rare satellite phones are?
No, they're pretty rare. Yeah. But I mean, I guess then being exposed to that, that gigahertz signal 1.6 for a long period of time, do you think that does anybody know if that particular frequency?
There are articles about L-band power and long-term exposure and things like that. I did wonder about and this doesn't take away from any of the science of Skinwalker Ranch, but when you laser focus and you do these really specific experiments, if we are learning just things about our environment that maybe are not specific to Skinwalker Ranch, like could a spike in that type of, the L band, like Jazz was referring to, could that trigger a headache, in somebody, depending on, how they're predisposed or not? That's why I'm curious if Jason's had headaches in the past. It doesn't sound like he has. Could we be learning some new things about our universe that aren't necessarily specific to Skinwalker Ranch? I think it's possible.
Maybe.
Throwing it out there. Yeah.
There's two things I'm getting from one of the guys over at UAPX is texting me. He says the first, Jason is the most chill dude. He would never fake it.
Right.
And the second, what's that?
I don't think he was faking anything.
No.
It was really dramatic.
Yeah, no. But then the other thing he said is Jason said he will never go back to the ranch.
No, he won't.
Which is pretty wild.
I'm glad he's. I didn't want to speak for Jason because like I said, one thing I do appreciate about the production company is it may really make for cool, spooky television. But if someone asks, look, please, don't play this out or share this or whatever because of their, if they feel like it's going to, cause them discomfort or embarrassment or something, they won't do it. And he has nothing to be embarrassed about, like nothing to be embarrassed about. The guy was a trooper and a stud. And I
gotta talk to Jason. I know his team's watching. I gotta talk to Jason because I'm just curious, like what he feels today. If these effects continued into today, are we still feeling these things? Because that would also be very, very odd. And I mean, like we've had, God, why am I forgetting his name? But one of the producers of the show, who helped produce the first season.
TJ Allard.
TJ Allard. Jeez, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, TJ said, I produced one season, never going back there ever again.
Yep.
So
it put TJ on his butt, destroyed his cell phone
for months.
I mean, he was sick for a long time after having gone.
Yeah, I love your idea, Draken, about doing brain scans. It'd be absolutely fascinating to have someone like Gary Nolan, who's doing research about, certain developments in the brain that potentially might act as somewhat of an antenna for these things. And it'd be very interesting if people like Jason and Thomas maybe happen to have those brain structures and other people who aren't affected maybe don't. That would That would explain a
That's
lot.
so-
Essentially.
It's so expensive.
Risks, though. I think I'm not completely sure, but don't you expose yourself to increased risks when you do those scans and MRI? Let's just say we have somebody in our family who's been going through that. I think they try to limit the amount of scans you do, right, beyond the expense. But I love that idea. I wish we all could just get brain scans just in general, just for our own just day-to-day mental health.
I think it's
one
really
several
cool for
times.
everybody else, for all of us. It's cool for everybody watching. Like, hey, this is very sciencey. You know, and
Yeah.
I don't want to say that sarcastically. It's very scientific. This is really. It's probably less cool if you're the person wondering if you have a brain tumor. You know, that's a little less cool. I mentioned it earlier. Two separate people I've spoken to over the past few weeks, and I'll have something coming out in a different place than this in the near future about it, who spent time there, said the exact same sentence to me when I spoke to them. I'm never going back there. And two of them are people who spent quite a time there, and they're like, never again, never going back. And these are people that are on
the
TV.
former owner's been invited back, and he said, "No way in hell, never going back."
Yeah.
And people who work
That's pretty
for
wild.
the former ranch managers are saying the same thing. It's like they were there for a while. They were out there sleeping on the mesa and doing all sorts of stuff. And it's like, and one of them, I will tell you in advance, also has been going in for scans because bad results a couple of years later, you know, and they're like, nope, I don't know if it's anything weird, but nope, hard nope, thanks, you know.
Yeah, this episode did not make me want to visit the ranch.
Yeah, no, yeah, and Brandon's invited us out there, and I want to go, but man, I don't want Havana syndrome like symptoms. Like, I'm not interested in any more medical bills. We've had enough medical bills in this house to last a
Same here.
lifetime. Like, yeah, I feel like I really want to go, but at the same time, I'm in no rush. Like, I'm not in a rush to get out there. But let's turn real quick if we can, because I think this is what. And if the producers of History Channel ever get to watch this, you guys are missing the boat here. And I hope don't take that the wrong way. I feel like you have 3 shows in one here. We should have the Science of Skinwalker Ranch show, the normal, just regular Skinwalker Ranch show, and then now we've got Tom and Candace kind of doing a really cool part of not just talking about Skinwalker Ranch, but actually going out into the basin and getting stories from around the ranch. Like, I feel like this show is trying to fit 3 into 1. And what I'm telling History Channel is make 3 shows. Like, make this a year-round thing, and you could film it while you're doing one show. Like, you guys are. Call me, because I feel like that's a great idea. But I thought this was really cool when they're talking to the deputy Jeff, I believe Kearney was his name, and
Jeff is a great guy. He is. Yeah, he's awesome. He's come out and helped us with security at times and everything. I mean, Jeff is a solid, straight up guy for sure.
And I feel like it's probably not the only story he has either. Yeah, you know, like I have a feeling he's probably got more similar to this. And he describes just a different house altogether. Like, it looked like a really nice, beautiful horse ranch. And the wife of the owner was at home, and she'd called the police because she thought there was a drone outside trying to film her and people inside her house. And Jeff gets out there and he sees this, what looked like a drone, but then was really bright. And this was like a half-hour sighting. This wasn't just like a couple of seconds. This was long enough for the police to get out there. And then the police sat there and observed it for 10 or 15 minutes. But we'll go roundtable. We'll start with Rather and work our way back up. But what did you think of this segment, Rather? What were the interesting parts that stuck out to you? You're muted.
You're muted, Rather.
Yeah, the cop chasing the thing for 25 miles was really the big thing that stuck out for me. That's way further than the range of any commercial drones. There's probably military drones that could do that, but if there's military drones going around the Uinta Basin, that's another big question too, right? It didn't seem to do anything really crazy like instant acceleration or anything like that, but yeah, that's a long range and very unusual sighting.
Rather, those are the exact notes I wrote down as well, talking about the drone. 25 miles is a very long way. Now, while this was happening, I was also kind of giggling to myself, and I'm like, why is a policeman chasing a UFO? Are they going to give it like a speeding ticket or something because it's going too fast? Because there are, and while that's a joke, there are quite a few stories, quite a few UFO sightings where policemen have encountered UFOs and trying to chase them down, but they're never able to reach them. So this is a reoccurring theme that we've seen across the ufology history, and this policeman isn't anything new, but it is pretty exciting to be able to hear it on a TV show.
Yeah.
Well,
Jeff,
and Jeff's had
go
some
ahead.
other experiences, both while he was, helping out with security on the property in his off time and things like that, just really other strange things. So, hopefully we can dive into more. And there was another incident with a highway patrolman that the blasted head of the highway patrol here in Utah wouldn't let him talk about it because then it would make it seem like their equipment was not working right, where he had a bright light go ripping past at crazy speed and then turn and come ripping past and again. And it's unfortunate that, everything like that can't be shared.
Yeah. Jazz, I saw your face light up a little bit when Cristina had mentioned police officers chasing these things and reports of that. Is there anything that came to your mind when she said that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've actually, for the debrief, I've documented a number of historical cases I researched that involve a lot of police involvement and the blowback some of them get when that happens. That's totally understandable. But actually, this particular deputy's experience, it's like he's seeing stuff in the sky. And one thing I did want to ask Dragon, I'd written down if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
There are people who go to the ranch and they report almost immediately something really weird and effed up happens, and they see it and they experience it. Then there are other people who go to the ranch, and I think from past seasons when we talk to you, they see UFOs, they see stuff in the sky, but they're not seeing like dino beavers and werewolves and things like that. Where do you put yourself on that scale? Because you've seen a bunch of UFOs now. We saw that again this week. Has your experience personally extended a lot beyond that into other things that aren't just equipment failures, but I mean more paranormal things? I mean, and if you're not comfortable answering that, fine. But I mean, where would you put yourself on that scale between dino beavers and I've seen some UFOs?
I've seen some UFOs. Like, okay. Honestly, for me, for a long time, it was frustrating because I hadn't even seen any of that for a long time on the property. And, I wondered what it was. Like, I'd be working and leave for a couple of days to see my kids or something like that. And stuff would go haywire and we'd capture it on film and everything. And then I'd come back and it was all quiet again. So, we joke that, I'm the paranormal repellent or something like that.
Here of you, Dragon.
in fact, Jason, the second day, he wouldn't leave my side because I said nothing happened to me. And he was literally that because he was so weirded out and he thought that I had some sort of protecting power or something like that. Strange.
I can relate, man. I used to call myself paranormal kryptonite. Like, if you hang around me, you're not going to see any ghosts.
Right. And honestly, I've felt things. I've had really off feelings in certain areas around the ranch too, that, the whole fight or flight reflex or all the hair on my body stand on end or whatever it is. But as far as dino beavers or,
werewolves,
dire wolves or, shadow figures or ghosts or all that other different kind of stuff. No, not me.
Dude,
we do have a shadow cat in our house, by the way, now, but that's the only thing we've seen. So
That's cute.
It's like
support. They do for sure.
It's almost like you're getting mad at them. It's like, Jesus, man, really? You got a headache? All right, man. Well, if you're not good in about 15, 20 minutes, you're out of here. You're gone. I love it. It's the old dragon's back.
Well, the thing about it is,
season 2, you guys were so much more milder. This year, you're like, I'm not taking any shit, pal. If you don't feel better in 15 minutes, you're gone.
Well, that's the thing about it, though, is it's not. Yes, it's not like I'm trying to like force the individual out or I'm mad at him.
No,
I'm mad at everything that's going on around us because you've got, camera guys and sound guys that want to pick everything up and they care more about getting the shot or what's happening next. And I'm like, no, this guy's safety is first and foremost, and I will hold that. And I don't care, who I piss off or how much money it costs to bring somebody in or whatever it is. I'm not going to have somebody that has long-term effects where it's going to, hurt them, in the long run. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. So, yeah. My give a shit went down again this year. So,
I love that your give a shit went down because the entertainment value has gone up. I mean, dude, I was saying last week, watching you hop out of the chopper in the first episode, Creedence Clearwater Revival is just playing in my head the whole time, and I was just picturing you with one of those like really big guns, But Jane, you were saying, I'm sorry.
Oh well, just about the whole UFO thing, and I loved the UFO sighting that occurred during this episode, and we got an actual like video of it happening in real time. I loved it. I've been covering UFO sightings like these they're so plentiful. If you go to TexasUFOsightings.com, click orbs, and just by page 2, that you're going to see just like kind of what we saw in the episode, in my opinion. And so I think there could be something going on with the orb phenomenon / tic tac. However, I will say what is really, really difficult in ufology, and it's increasingly hard, and it's only going to get harder every passing year, is our tech is getting so advanced. And, if the aliens are real and they're visiting, it's super easy to blend in with us. And drones have been around for a really, really long time. It wasn't until the 2000s that we could use them commercially, but they were around since the 30s and stuff. There were even remote balloons, guys. So this is a technology that's older than a lot of people think. I'm wondering if these could be surveillance drones. The advanced drones can get, 30,000 feet up high. They can have these really big lights on them if they're trying to film surveillance that completely blocks out any navigation lights. It'll just look like a silent, solid light ominously, hovering around and moving around in the sky. So I don't know, what was seen in this particular incident or whatever, but I will just say, as somebody who is researching these UFOs regularly, drones drive me crazy, and I'm so annoyed. I'm kind of annoyed that they exist because they really get in the way. And if I'm an alien visiting, it's gonna be really easy for me to I'm just a drone, hi bye.
Well, it's also just an easy. Oh, it's just a drone. It's easy. Yeah. It's easy to take that and sort of slap it on anything, and then all of a sudden it's dead in the water. It's like, come on, man! Like you said, a drone doesn't go 25 miles.
It's the modern day weather balloon. Remember, that's always what UFO sightings were.
It's the modern day swamp gas.
Yes.
Elon Musk's Starlink is another great example, and I want to remind people, though, the Starlink satellite train, the lights, the in a line that looks crazy, and you're right to think, oh my gosh, aliens are invading a little bit. But remember, people were seeing things like this before Starlink, right? So that's something to remember. People were seeing drone-like sightings before commercial drones, and so we have to, the history of UFOs does matter as we get more advanced. So it's just something to keep in mind whenever we're looking at footage.
So I've got
There's
a question.
2 sides to this, if I could, though, and I'd be interested to hear what Dragon has to say. Yes, I totally agree with everything Jane just said. There's a lot of that technology. It's been around, and there are people who will just ascribe everything to that. But the government does have a lot of drones and things, and I'm not saying it's all of it or anywhere close to it. But as I said, I've been doing some checking in the background. We're going to touch on this later in the season as we get more stuff in. the government is very interested in Skinwalker Ranch, and they are looking into things, and they do have tech like that. So I'm just curious. I mean, no, not a Tic Tac looking thing, but if something weird goes over in the sky, Dragon, sometimes it might be the government because they are watching you. You know, I'm sorry, I can just say to a certain degree now, they are watching you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is the chat is on absolute fire right now, and I have
There's a
to address
ghost
that.
here.
Okay,
So the hitchhiker.
So I got a question for you, Are you? It's like the office you're in next to a highway or something like that. Where
No,
cars
it's so
driving
whisper
by?
quiet here. Whisper
Wow.
quiet.
Okay, because people are like, somebody's breathing weird. Sounds like
I've
Chewbacca.
heard a little bit of it. So.
I've heard it too, and I don't know what it is. Does anybody have any guesses?
Is that my mic? I'm sorry.
No,
Nobody's like moving or doing anything. When
I just heard it just then.
It sounds like cars going past a distant highway to me, or a hitchhiker who has infected our microphones.
Yeah, that's what everybody's freaking out. You know what I'm gonna do real quick? Just because rather you've got sort of administrative control. I'm gonna back out real quick, and then I'll come back in and see maybe if that works out.
I got a window cracked open a little bit. I'll try closing it.
Yeah, and I'll try closing my window, see if that makes a difference.
Okay, all right. So many other windows on the street. What just happened? That's so funny. That's so funny. All right, I'll wait until they get back, and then I'll pop out and pop back in and see if it's me. It sounds like your producer is snoring.
I'm gonna grab another soda.
Could be me. Anyway, the one thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we moved on was Caleb looks ripped.
Yeah.
Can we agree on that?
Caleb and Travis do their whole CrossFit shit together. So and Caleb's gotten a lot bigger. Yeah. No, yeah.
Dude, he has gotten
a lot bigger.
Huge.
Yeah.
When are you gonna jump in those CrossFit sessions, Dragon?
A week from never. No, that's not.
You're intimidating enough already.
You're intimidating now. I cannot imagine if they started putting you through their CrossFit efforts.
Yeah. Look, they're dedicated. It's great. I'm glad. Good for them. But, my lunch breaks to eat lunch, not to go run in 100-degree weather with the 60-pound weight vest on me. So, that's how it works.
Lord Ludacris says, talk about a cult. CrossFit is a cult.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, you know how you can tell if somebody does CrossFit, right?
No.
They tell you about it.
Yeah.
There you go. That makes sense.
First day I met him, I do CrossFit.
Is that for real?
Oh,
no way.
First time on an Alien Con panel, even before we'd only filmed like a week, and then we went and did that, he even brought it up there, and I turned, I'm like, really? You exercise? You do CrossFit? And it's because and that's been a running joke forever. He had a birthday while we were out there the first season, and I had a cake made for him that said, "Happy birthday, Captain CrossFit." So it's 100%. He's big into that stuff, and he is not shy to talk about it.
So when he gets into yoga, we'll see, if that correlates with any, change about his perception of Skinwalker Ranch. I feel like it always ends up in yoga. I think maybe I would do yoga at Skinwalker Ranch.
There you go.
I feel like maybe that would be a good way to start it off, right? And put
that'd be interesting.
Hey, Google, turn it off. Guys,
your Google turned on? Good Lord, what is going on in this stream? Although it sounds like we got rid of the hitchhiker. I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it in a second, so maybe the Windows was it.
Playing some music.
So then we saw the Osiris die. We kind of already went over the Osiris dying. But what was interesting was the experiment that was going on with these rockets. I didn't see any data come back from the rockets. Do you know if there was just that was cut out, or what was sort of the most interesting thing that was gathered by that experiment?
As far as that goes, Eric did try to put some GPS trackers in the nose cone of the rockets as well that he built. And our rocket guy they basically the chute never deployed and it destroyed the GPS sensors. So it flat out just
How many of the rockets didn't deploy the chute?
Like 3.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
Did they find the ones with the smoke bombs on them?
Yeah,
Did you guys see anything weird as those went up?
No, not really. I mean, there was nothing really visually that we could see. It's so quick and the smoke dissipates really fast and things like that. That was kind of an experiment we thought we'd try, and you noticed there wasn't a lot of smoke canister rockets because it was throwing them off and they would go all over the place, and really it wasn't great.
Right. Okay.
That's why it's called an experiment,
Yeah, no, and that's I think that's I'm okay with that. It would have just been cool to have been like, yeah, this didn't work. Like sometimes they're not all the experiments are going to work, but I'm curious, does anybody else have a question about that particular part before we move on to the next part?
It's not really a question, but I would like to state, after shooting up all those rockets, well, I guess kind of when it was still midday before the sun went down, they recorded a UFO, and I found that so exciting. But my favorite part from that was Travis Taylor's expression to the whole situation. To me, he sounded like a kid in a candy shop. He was so excited. You could just hear it in his voice, and there was. From that moment, I noticed a really big transformation from him compared to season 1 into season 3. In season 1, he was very scientifically minded. In my perspective, he was kind of like, I already know everything that's going on. Nothing can really surprise me. As the show went on into season 3, he's like, yeah, I really don't know anything at all. Whatever is happening at this ranch, I really have no idea. And seeing this UFO, or he called it a UAP, he was just so, like, it made me smile at the end of the day to see someone who's very scientifically minded. And in many respects, it can be almost like tunnel vision when you're only looking at data, which is important, don't get me wrong, but when you have your own experience and you're able to place in those emotions, it's a different ball game altogether. And you can't get rid of one without the other. Either you get rid of both or you use both. So for me, when it came to Travis, I thought it was a really fantastic transformation from season 1 into season 3.
Yeah. No, that's been you're right. I think that's probably been one of the most interesting, I want to say character arcs, because he's not a character, he's a real person, but like, yeah, I mean, it went from like, yeah, I don't really believe any of this stuff, why are we digging in the ground, quit being so scared, to season 2 seeing actual like portals and things and chasing things in the dark, to getting CrossFit in, and now he's like, yeah, I have no idea what the hell's going on, but I do, he's got theories. Right now we're sort of on this one part of the sky above the triangle, but I'm hoping to God by the end of this season that we get a balloon in that triangle with the instruments. Like, I feel like it's just, it feels, what I saw your face, Dragon. Are we going to get a balloon with some instruments on it so we don't have to keep firing rockets and dropping stuff through it?
Stay tuned.
Son of a gun.
I'll take it as a yes.
Question, and I don't know how close we are to wrapping.
We have he's got about a half hour left.
There was one thing I had left for Dragon, and I understand this is none of our business. Feel free to tell me to go F myself, whatever, but with all the stuff that we talked about at the beginning of the show that's been going on with various people, your team that's been there for a while, the new team that was out here for this episode, have you had any concerns? Have you been going and maybe getting a checkup or something, and seeing, could I be in the early stages of something that could be serious later? Is that a concern you have? Have you taken any actions? And again, I understand your personal medical records are none of our business. So
yeah,
I'm just
like I said, I've joked, I've never so much as caught a cold on Skinwalker Ranch, even though I did get COVID this past year and was 2 weeks in a hotel room in Vernal, Utah, which was no fun. But as far as that goes, yeah, I have annual physicals, so I want to make sure. So, yeah, and nothing so far.
Well, we just got a
Just
Hope it
age,
stays that way.
just old age. That's it.
We just got in a special guest joining the stream here, Mr. Jimmy Church. Sir, how are you? Welcome.
Hey, Jimmy.
What's shaking?
Jimmy.
Coffee. So I'm getting
River
caught
Moon
up.
coffee.
Yeah, I'm getting caught up here in the conversation. So, hello everybody. How you doing? And I'm gonna just put myself on mute for a second and listen to this again between Jazz and Dragon.
Yeah, no, you got it. Did you have a follow-up, Jazz?
No, that was basically it. I'm just curious. I think I'm satisfied that, yes, the production company, when they get a hold of things, they try to make it look more interesting. And, obviously you don't have control of everything that goes on the cutting room floor and what doesn't and how it gets presented. But the actual facts, the more I dig into it and talk to people that aren't even on the show that are involved, this is not bullshit. There's something very real happening. And I'm just curious, is the whole team sitting there wondering, we're trying to do good work, we're trying to investigate, are we putting ourselves in danger? Because bad things do happen to people out there. I've talked to people who have never been on TV and bad things happen to them. I mean, how do you manage that? You have to do security, but in terms of medical things and security issues, along those lines, how do you check yourself into that and go, am I keeping everybody safe?
Well, that's just it. That's the frustrating thing. And then that's the part about individuals coming onto the ranch.
Because I don't want to go there.
Whether it be trespassers or
don't
whatnot,
invite me.
They don't understand that, they're putting themselves at risk because you just don't know what's going to happen. You could have zero effect like myself, and, George Knapp likes to talk about enough never happened to him while he was there, things of that nature. And then, you get others that it seems like it affects them, quite a bit or follows them home. I saw a question in the chat asking if I ever had a hitchhiker or anything. No, I haven't. I haven't. For whatever reason, I'm fortunate in that regard. And I think, not to get too woo-woo and out there, but a lot of the way the ranch reacts to people is, and it's not always this case, but it seems as though it knows intent. Travis, like you were saying, going back to your point, season 1, Travis was an arrogant ass, basically saying, you guys are all batshit crazy. There's nothing going on there that we can't explain away with science and everything else, to all of a sudden he's the one that's having nightmares every night and having all this crazy stuff happen and physically and everything else, to the point where now, he's 100% an experiencer of things. And, it's hard to explain, but, the responsibility of the health and safety of people, I take it seriously. So going back to what we were talking about with Jason, look, the last thing I'm going to do is let someone sit there and have long-term things. So when I said, look, if you're not better in a few minutes, you're out of here. I'm just not going to mess around. There's only so much I can do, but at the end of the day, I try my best to do that. I just feel fortunate that, personally, I, haven't had any, ill effects, but it worries loved ones. My mom calls me after every episode and says, I'm so glad that I know you're safe, because after watching that, it makes me want to, she says that every single time because it freaks her out.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to ask that question without getting too intrusive.
No, you're great. Thanks.
Kooky Nick had a question here for you, and thank you for the donation. Says, Dragon, any thoughts on using a missile type drone to get a close up of the UAPs? I don't know if I've ever seen a missile type drone, but I mean, I know you guys have used the helicopter to sort of get measurements out there, but what about drones? I'm trying to think. I know there's drones that use to film the show, but have instruments been attached to drones? I don't remember that ever happening. Or has that ever happened off camera?
No. Yes. I mean, like we've done scans with drones, like Pete Kelsey's LiDAR scans and everything like that. But as far as actively trying to chase up at speed to get a close up of a UAP, I don't know how you would do that. And then, drones have to abide by the same, airspace standards as other, when we've launched those other rockets, we've literally had to call and get clearance for that airspace, not the smaller ones because they don't go high enough, but some of the bigger ones, you have to get clearance for the airspace so that it's not, I don't know what that was.
What was that?
It sounded like a vacuum starting up. We have a monster in this stream for sure. Yeah, I don't know what's
going on. There was a drone in season 1, or was it season 2? They brought out a professional drone operator, right?
Right.
It wasn't me. I'm on mute, so there.
Yeah. Bizarre.
I think I peed a little bit.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Jimmy.
We have a hitchhiker.
Well, Jimmy, so based off of last week's show, coming into this week's, have we inspired you to start watching the show?
The short answer is yes. Okay, but continue.
Okay. No, I was gonna say, I mean, are there any sort of burning questions about the ranch that you've ever had for someone who works on the ranch?
Yeah, well, here's my take. I think that most in our community, which includes myself, have known that there is something going on up there, and we've known that for a long time. And we also know that there are specific locations around the country where things happen, and we've all visited those locations, and it's fun. And sometimes it's a mix of everything. It's not just one, specific piece of whatever you want to call it, paranormal, supernatural, some type of scientific physics thing going down. But Skinwalker is one of those places. And the question that I always have, and I'll throw this at Dragon, is this something that is specifically a geographical location thing? Or is this just everywhere and we're not paying attention to it? And that's my fascination with Skinwalker, because you have all the properties around there that are adjacent where there are things happening too as well. Also in the skies. So it doesn't stop at the fence line at Skinwalker, or does it?
No, it doesn't. No, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I think that there could be something to the geography of the Uinta Basin as a whole. The way that it's, I don't know if it's something that happened in the past or the shape of it or something like that, but the whole basin, it's kind of been nicknamed UFO Alley. The late Junior Hicks, who years and years and years of research and everything, and I wish that we could share more of the stuff that he discovered. I mean, he lived out there his entire life and took it as a hobby, where he would go around to people that saw things and have them draw pictures and document it for a long time, like 40, 50, 60 years of doing that sort of thing. So the basin is definitely a hotspot. I don't know if it's based on, the geographical makeup of it or what it is. I mean, it is a big place where there's a lot of oil and gas in the area, a lot of minerals, things like that. So I don't know if that is something that's necessary for whatever it is, to be prevalent. But you're right. We talk about Skinwalker Ranch, and I think everyone thinks that it's confined to those 512 acres because, that particular property has been studied and documented so long. So of course there's going to be a lot, of history there and results from it. And, at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of places where you've got a 24/7 scientific investigation that is focused solely on just, capturing and documenting and seeing all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that there's a lot more going on around. It just is not, as focused upon. And, who knows what the reasoning behind that particular piece of property. But, there's been cattle mutilations in the rest of the basin, just like there was on Skinwalker Ranch in the past, things of that nature. So, but you're right. It's definitely not confined to the barbed wire fence of Skinwalker Ranch.
I love Jimmy's question, by the way. And meant to bring this up earlier, and I apologize I didn't. But I have been talking to people, as I said, who worked there before your era, and some of them don't look at this as just a nuts and bolts UFO thing or aliens or whatever. A lot of them think that it has a lot to do with the Native American heritage, and that there are actual things we don't understand that fall into the Native American traditions, like skinwalkers, like things that are beyond the normal ken of people. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, is that something that gets discussed behind the scenes on the show? That maybe part of it is
absolutely, no question about it. In fact, personally, I would love if we had a little bit more of that side of things. So, when we do have some people come out, I mean, the problem is that the television show is supposed to be like a science based
UFO
documentary, and not even necessarily a UFO show, but trying to use the scientific method to figure out what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch. So the whole spiritual side of it, or, whatever you want to call it from the Native American lore standpoint, it doesn't necessarily fit in, and it's not as, quote, sexy to the viewer or whatever. Like, those aren't the decisions I make, but that sort of thing really interests me a lot. And in talking with Native Americans and seeing some of their petroglyphs and things like that, like, they have things that, they may not have called it a portal, but in their culture, it was, the first father went on a rainbow bridge to the ocean and was able to bring fish back, or whatever it was, type of a thing, which, we call them portals, we call them UFOs, they call them other things within their culture, but I think it's all intertwined. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you ever feel like you're kind of tempting fate by, all these Native Americans on the show are saying, our elders tell us not to talk about skinwalkers and not to, say these names and stuff. And here we are to have, a review show and 3 seasons of Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, now we're all screwed.
We might be, tempting fate a little bit with that.
Yeah, but I mean, no, because look, every culture has things you don't talk about. If you don't want to talk about, if you look at Christianity, you don't want to talk about the devil or invite him in or whatever it is, type of a thing. So for them, it's, it's a lot more cultural in that regard. So I'm not shy to talk about it. I definitely respect them because it's very real and it's part of their culture. And I would never, profess to do otherwise. But no, if I feel like it's inviting the woo-woo to my house, I'm okay talking about it.
Can I ask a quick question? Just real quick. Probably 7 or 8 years ago on the show, I had, and Dragon, you probably know who I'm about to bring up. I had live on the air a worker from the closest convenience store / gas station to the ranch. It's 5 or 6 miles away. And it's like the last stop before you get to the ranch. And
the Ute Plaza right there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's not say anything. I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
It's fine. No.
So I had this person live on the air, and I was going to say he was invited on. It wasn't like it was a caller that just called into the show. Anyway, I said, so you see anything strange in the sky? And you know what the answer was? And the answer was exactly why people watch the show, which is the idea of something really crazy happening. And he said, no, I haven't seen any UFOs, but me and my family have a legless floating wolf dog that's black with red eyes on our property. And I said, wait a say what? Yes. And this has been going on for years, and everybody around here knows about it. And now I'm going to throw that back at you. That's the viewers hear things like this, and they hear the rumors. Have you had that kind of personal experience up there, and have you heard the same things?
I haven't, but going back to like the very first episode of season 1, Jim Morse, the guy with the great vests and where there's smoke, there's fire, anyway, Jim, he talked about being out there at night and driving along his car in well, actually in one of the UTVs, and had the exact same experience. He saw these big red eyes that were tracking, looking at him, floating. I mean, it was dark, so he couldn't see the body shape necessarily, but he said, I felt like I was being watched. He's like, and to this day, he won't go out at night by himself out there anymore.
What do you and Native Americans? There's a lot of cultures here in North America that talk about the same thing. And ultimately, what do you think something like that could be? As a matter of fact, the caller had said the same thing. Couldn't really tell if it's a wolf, but I felt that it was a wolf, but we couldn't see the legs. But it lives on our property and hides out behind our house. And it's a pretty I want to see that.
I would try Reese's Pieces.
Yeah.
That sounds like ET, man. That sounds like ET with red eyes. Yeah,
okay.
Maybe lure him into the shed and throw a baseball at it. See what happens.
Yeah, there you go.
Put that on the schedule next season, Dragon. Reese's Pieces.
The whole Native American aspect of it was sort of the last thing I wanted to talk about again with Candace and Tom.
Sorry, I ruined that for you.
No, that's all right. You didn't ruin anything. Well, what could be possibly ruined right now? The gentleman they talked to, Corey Sarawap, and he was kind of sort of reiterating what Rather was saying a little bit of, like, we don't talk about this. It almost was like Voldemort. Like, the more you talk about it, the stronger it gets. So just leave it alone. But I thought that was kind of a cool part of the episode. But look, we got Dragon for about 15 more minutes. He's got to get out of here pretty soon. Let's rate the show, shall we? Let's rate this episode. Jimmy, did you get to see this episode?
I did not. Let me
You're
just
catching
say
up.
I went back and watched a few. I skipped over, some random stuff from the previous season. And I was going to make some comments about what I did see. I'm fascinated. Like I said, I think this goes on all across the country. I don't think it's anything specific. It's about paying attention and being aware. And I think it's very interesting. So no, I haven't seen the latest episode, so I can't vote.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And just to kind of reiterate what you're saying, Jimmy, we've got a friend of ours named Carl Vibe, and he has gotten some insanely cool footage of a mountain out there in Utah, close to where you're at. I've seen this footage, and it's very reminiscent of what you guys captured in season 1, where the entire face of the mountain lit up in the basin, and he's caught it now twice on infrared camera. And I've seen this footage, and I've asked them a whole bunch of questions about it as far as what could it be. I grilled the hell out of him, and it's going to be very interesting. I'm curious to see what the public thinks about it and see what holes they poke and what the possible explanation is. And Carl's like, look, this could be anything. I have no clue. He's very open for people to sort of get an explanation out there that could fit what's happening. I told him to talk to the local universities and maybe they've heard of something like this, but it's weird. It's definitely weird. You can't see it with the camera. Just a regular camera. You could see it with the naked eye, but it doesn't register on a regular camera. They only capture it on the night vision. So it's very, very cool. So I look forward to that. That'll be out before the end of the month, and then we could talk about it when it does happen. But yeah, that whole region is just fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I think discussions like this, shows like what Dragon's doing, and what Christina's doing, and Jane doing, and Jimmy's doing, like, this is, more people will have this discussion, and they can come to the table and try and figure out what they also think is cool or scary or whatever. But all right, let's go for it.
You and I are neighbors. Why don't we pack up the Fade to Black Jeep, and we don't have to get on the ranch. Let's go outside of the gates. We'll pitch a tent, and we'll look over the fence and see if it's confined inside of the fence, or we can share the experience from a public road. What do you say?
I mean, you don't have to threaten me with a good time, Jimmy Church. I'll bring the Reese's Pieces, see what we can do.
And when the ghosts kill both of them and Rather takes over the show, by the way, I'll still come on as a guest, Rather.
Or when Dragon shoots us because we're actually trespassing and we think we're not.
He'll just kill you. Yeah. Who could blame him, really?
I'm looking at Dragon's face right now. And he's like, no, you're not.
I wouldn't do that. Yeah,
it's not
and plus, Brandon's invited us, so maybe we can get you in there as well. I don't know. I don't know. The bouncer at the door. I kind of do, but I don't feel like I want to put that pressure on him like this publicly. But maybe behind the scenes we can make it happen. Okay, so let's rate the show. We'll start with Rather. We'll snake our way up. And then we'll finish with me, and we'll get Dragon out of here. He's got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I thought it was a great show. I was a little bit less entertained than I was the first episode. I thought the first episode was, the big splashback, really cool. Maybe I was a little distracted when I watched it. That could be it. But I'll give it a 7. Gave the last episode an 8 for entertainment. Still thought it was very engaging, very entertaining. For science, I was more impressed by the science in this episode. The whole Osiris thing, even though it didn't really test what they were intending to test, I thought what they ended up actually testing was extremely interesting, and that was the kind of the trickster phenomenon. I haven't seen that on camera before ever now, and now we have this 6 out of 8 experiments. The equipment all shut down until the seconds leading up to it, which I thought that in of itself was a very interesting experiment. So I'm going to go high. I'll give it a 6 for science. I thought that was one really interesting bit of real scientific data we got there.
I think that's like one of the highest science scores you've ever given. And you actually gave me a different perspective on the science, because I was almost thinking as this episode of an NA, like a not available, because we didn't there was no data show. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't get any graphs. We didn't get any sort of data on a screen, but that doesn't mean that what we didn't see wasn't scientific. And so you make a really good point there. So I think just based off what you said, I think my science score changed. But Jane, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm starting to develop a conclusion. So the science has to go way up, which seems like the ranch is kind of messing with everybody. And so I was pretty generous with my science score last time, though. So I guess I'll bump it up to like an 8, which I think is really high for a History Channel show. And then as far as entertainment, though, I do think I laughed out loud more in the last episode, and I was just a little, but it's a balance between the science and entertainment. So I think, I don't know, I'd say a 7 for entertainment and an 8 for science. I think there's a little more science, maybe.
The entertainment scores are absolutely shocking me. Jazz, what do you got?
I feel like I have an unfair advantage over everybody because we discussed in the background, I've been doing a lot of research and talking to people about things that aren't on the show and things that we aren't talking about here. Let's start with entertainment. It's so fascinating to me, and they're hitting all the bells. The stuff that I want to know about, the stuff that I'm researching on my own. And they're getting into it, and I'm not hearing anything disingenuous. So for entertainment, I'm once again, I don't remember what I gave last time. I'm going to go with an 8. And believe it or not, I'm going to go with an 8 for science, because I've gone and checked into it. We talked about some of this stuff on the show tonight. It all matches up. Not all of it can be proven, but these guys are really digging up actual data, and I was really satisfied when I first watched the show. And then when I went and reviewed all my material and watched it again to get ready for this, I was actually even more satisfied. So I'm going to go 8 and 8.
Wow.
Cool.
8 and 8. Like it. Cristina, what do you got?
This had to be my favorite episode out of all of the seasons. So my entertainment score is going to be pretty high. Maybe like I want to give it like an 8.5. This way that if another episode is better than this one, I'll have a little more to go on top of that. As for the science, I like the way that Rather displayed that his science score, and when he put it in that type of placement, it does make sense to give it a higher science score than I originally considered giving it, just because while there wasn't really a lot of data truly available on the TV show. The fact that they weren't able to get data is data in itself. So I think I might have to give it a good maybe 6.5 or a 7 on the science score.
All right.
Overall, it was great. I really enjoyed it.
Did you give it an entertainment score? Did I miss that?
I think I said 8, 8.5.
Okay. Dragon, do you want to rate it 10 and 10? What do you got?
No, I'll never rate it 10 and 10 because I know everything that was left out, and it could have been so much more entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, from a science aspect, I'm always going to give it a high rating. Going back to what you guys said, and I appreciate what Jazz said, especially. You know, it's nice to know that we're truly, there are people recognizing that and doing their own research and realizing that, there's a lot of thought that goes behind the science. It's impossible to show all the setup going into it. I wish I could have talked about, last week, the GPS trackers that were put. Eric had to hand solder every one of those under a microscope, and it took him a good 8 hours to build each one of those little trackers that was going in there so that he knew that they were working. And that's what was so frustrating is we tested and everything was flawless. And so, I'm always going to give the science score a higher side because first off, I get to play. Eric lets us all be scientists out there and help out and pitch in with everything. So I'll give the science score a 9 just because I have to knock it down a little bit for the Osiris.
Okay. All right.
Just kidding.
And then entertainment score, you said a lot was left off the table there. So what do you
Well,
giving
it's just
that?
there's so much. And like I said, you're taking hundreds of hours of filming and ratcheting them down into 10, 42-minute programs, right? So that's the hard thing for me because there's a lot of things that I think is cool as shit that I would love to see happen or that was super entertaining to me, but it may not play as quite sexy on TV. So, you know what? My kids were entertained. My mom was entertained. So I'll give it an 8. How's that?
There you go. Hey, that's not bad.
Hey, Dragon, before we let you go, can I ask Lou? I did it again. I'm taking over your
Jimmy,
show.
It's in your DNA. Just
Jimmy
go
does
with
this
it.
all the
Just go with
time.
it.
This is
And I'm
every
with
show
it.
Jimmy's on. Is Jimmy's show.
It's not like I mean, I'm not gonna yell at you like
show.
Guys, it's a hitchhiker show. We should know. There's a their show.
I'm not gonna yell at you like Robert Salas did Lou Elizondo during the big show. Like this is your show, so go for it.
Well, I'll invite you and Jane onto my show, and we'll interview somebody, and you guys can step all over me. How's
Sounds
that?
great. Sounds good.
Okay, Dragon. A few days ago, we were here talking, and Jazz brought up a question that we ended up debating for quite a while, and that is, if you had the money shot, you guys shot Bigfoot stepping out of a vortex with margaritas, right? Whatever, right?
It's totally true, by the way.
Does that make it to the show, or do you guys hold that back? Does the money shot stop the series, or does it explode into something else?
We would not hold that back. That was the only way that Brandon agreed to do the show. Was he has 50% say in every. I mean, he's a 50% partner with Prometheus on the production, and he gets rough cuts. He and I will sit in his office sometimes.
Does he get final cut?
He does.
So
I confirm that.
He gets to approve. So what will happen is he'll get the rough cut of it, and then I've sat in his office on multiple occasions and gone through and reviewed, and then I've told him that's an inconsistency. They took license here. We didn't say that, and he'll email them, and they'll have to change it because at the end of the day, he doesn't want anything made up. He's not trying to, put a load out there. He likes it. It's entertaining. And, the music and everything, they heighten things. There's no getting around it. It's a television production. But
great question, Jimmy.
He is not, like, I promise you, if the alien craft lands in the middle of the field, you're going to see it.
Okay. So here's the follow-up question. Have you guys gotten the money shot?
No.
Right.
Well, I mean, we got let me put it this way. Going back to Cristina saying that this is, are you guys talking about this being the best season? Without a doubt, more happened while we were filming season 3 than what happened the first 2 years combined.
Wow.
So we have a lot more. We have some, quote, money shots.
Well,
is it like the be all end all, this solves all the problems, or this, seals the deal? No, but you're going to see some stuff that it's really compelling.
Isn't that, I don't want to jump on Jimmy's question, but isn't money shot, and I don't want to drag this off into an inappropriate NC-17 area, isn't that in the eye of the beholder? Because we've seen more shots of what certainly look like Tic Tacs, and just for the record, you can go back to, Luis's shows. I've talked about it. I've seen Tic Tacs with my own eyes. We have stuff from the government. You guys have gotten film of more stuff than most people have ever seen. Right. Better film.
Yep.
If that's not a money shot.
No, it is. But I think
only when they come out and it's a gray, and it's like, here's your alien baby. Is that the money shot?
Yeah, and that's, I'm assuming that's what he was talking about. You know what I mean? Something of that nature. But you're, like I said, you're going to see more that is. Yeah, it's great stuff. So I want to get Luis's score, and then I got
and then we'll get you out of here. Okay,
sorry.
I'm gonna say this.
I'll come on again. I promise.
Of course, doors always wide open. So real quick, I'll say, I don't know how this got some of the not lowest, but I was shocked that we got the scores we got for entertainment. We saw a UFO. We saw somebody almost faint and have their eye pop out and never come back to the ranch again. We saw rockets, which are always cool. And we saw the Osiris finally on Skinwalker Ranch. Successful episode. That was we saw Dragon get pissed. Like, it was awesome. It was awesome. So for me, 9. I don't want to give it a 10 because I have a feeling I'm going to have to save that but man, for me, this was more entertaining than last week because I felt like it was so jam-packed with stuff that was going on that we didn't even get to see the data. Like the data was everything that was happening, the humans. So that was cool.
No Dino Beaver yet.
Yep, no Dino Beaver yet, but hopefully we'll get that Dino Beaver money shot. And then for the Dino, for the science score, I kind of going to go with I think 6.5, almost 7. I was going to go 5 just to stay neutral, but yeah, man, awesome episode. That was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And on that note, Bryant, the Dragon Arnold, thank you so much, man, for coming aboard, hanging out, getting weird with us.
Thank you.
What are your last words here?
If I can, real quick, I'm gonna give a shameless plug. It's not out yet, but
plug it.
We, because of the desire for more of the science and the things that go on behind the scenes and what happens when the cameras are off or anything, we are literally days away from launching a new web-based platform that's going to be called the Skinwalker Ranch Insider, where, there's going to be a lot of content. There's going to be, a lot more to it. There'll be some, free content. There'll be, a small subscription for some of the other stuff and we're even talking about, things like having access to look at some of the surveillance footage and things like that. So stay tuned. I'll come back again when it's officially launched or whatever, and I'll give you guys all the information, but we're excited about it.
Awesome.
Just because we'll have control over what's out there. Now, will we have behind the scenes footage from the show? No, because we don't own that stuff, but we can, we'll talk about experiments. We'll talk about other things, other things that we've captured that's not part of it. And we're excited to be able to actually give people a little bit more than what they get in what turns out to be 420 minutes a year.
That sounds exciting, man. Damn it. That just opened up a whole nother can of questions.
Yep.
It's not even shameless. That is gold.
Yeah, that's gold. That's
take my money, please.
Just quick yes or no. Those 4 cameras that you set up in the corners of the ranch, will those be connected to a live stream?
I don't know if we're going to be able to get the LVT units connected to a live stream. They run off of 5G. So because we don't have hard lines running out to them. So I don't know if the speed or the ability to do that is going to be possible. We may, and this will fall to Eric's discretion, we may be able to have archival footage that we haven't been able to review because they're recording all the time, that people may be able to scrub through. And if they find something, we give them credit for it or something like that. So there's going to be a lot of things where we want, people to be able to actively participate and feel like they're more part of the work.
It's not even credit. I just think that would be awesome, because you know how many people there are out there who watch the NASA feeds from like Mars, from the orbiters and all the other stuff, and they're constantly screening everything. And there are whole unpaid industries out there, that are just like, well, here's this weird thing that showed up and everybody gets to evaluate it. I think Skinwalker would attract an immediate army, unpaid army you wouldn't have to pay for, that they would all look at every frame of it and then send it into you guys and go, hey, what was this?
Yep.
And a lot of it's going to be, oh, sorry, that was a bird. But from what you guys have shown us, some of it's going to be, oh, that was a tic tac.
And that's the best part is, we need more eyes. There's just not nearly enough eyes.
Dragon, thank you so much, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Let me know when you want me back. I like this. This is fun stuff. You guys are
Come back anytime you want. Every week, yes, sir. Every week you can come back.
Okay.
All right, Brian. Be good, brother.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Dragon.
Maybe with the app, there'll be a money shot tab. I'm just saying.
That's not a bad idea, Jimmy Church. I kind of dig it. Before we get out of here, Jazz, what can you tell us about anything? Can you tell us anything about that you FOIA'd here in the last week? Because I know you were very passionate about the FOIAs that you were sending in from some of the stuff you learned. Any response or any news on that front?
There have been a couple of initial responses. I made an agreement with Brandon that I wasn't going to put anything out because I'm not doing it for my regular job reporting. It's just my hobby, and I told Brandon that I would give him everything first. We haven't gotten a lot back yet, but we definitely have gotten confirmation about the stuff you saw on the show last week about that National Science Foundation plane. That wasn't fake. That was absolutely real, and I have all the data already.
Nice.
We've been digging for more, and just this afternoon, I got the first initial confirmation without all the goodies. I went through 3 different agencies to get that information, and they are on it. They have confirmed it happened, and we're trying to get the entire cockpit conversations that went on when the plane was going over Skinwalker.
Holy crap.
And I was not rejected for that initially. I may still be rejected, but they just wanted the dates and the times, and they said, okay, we're assigning this request to another subgroup, and we'll get back to you. And we've given ourselves an extra 10 days of time. It's probably going to be 2 to 3 weeks before I find out whether we get denied or whether I get it. But if we get it, it does sound really interesting from the little tidbits we got from the first response. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting.
I think it'll be fun.
We'll see.
I kind of know a little bit about
me, man. This is what I do. It's my job. It's my hobby. You can watch TV shows all day long. You show me a government plane going over Skinwalker Ranch, I'm calling a whole bunch of government agencies. And I do that for a living. And it's like, hey, that's taxpayer money. Give me what you got. So we'll see how it goes.
Right on. Well, Jazz, on that note, sir, please tell the people where they can find your stuff before you get out of here.
You can find me at the Debrief. You can find me at Salem Media, Town Hall Magazine. I'm now writing over at Mysterious Universe. Go ahead and check that out. I have an article come up pretty soon about Skinwalker Ranch, but not the stuff we're talking about here, about some interviews I've had recently. That's pretty much it. But, you find me here. These are my friends. So, follow Luis.
All right, Jazz. We'll see you later, man. I'll let you get out of here. Get back to your wife. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Jane, thank you for coming by and hanging out. This was fun.
Thanks for having me.
Before you get out of here, please tell everyone where they can find your stuff as well.
Yeah, well, go subscribe, UFO Jane on YouTube. We have all the coverage from the Edinburgh Festival is coming. It's a little vloggy-ish, and so that will be fun. That's coming. And then if you're into Texas UFO sightings, TexasUFOsightings.com. If you're in the Lone Star State with me and you want to track Tic Tacs in real time here with me, go check it out.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, Jane. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Now there is 4. Rather, what do you got?
Yeah, find me on YouTube, Rather Be Squidding. Got some interesting science videos that I'm putting together, as well as a video on the 77 Council Bluffs, Iowa case. So stay tuned over there.
Did you go to a rave this weekend, Rather?
Now my voice is a little cracky, but
oh, there he is.
Yeah,
there he is.
Here I am.
All right, buddy. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Yep. Cristina Gomez.
Oh, this was so much fun.
This was fun, you guys.
For people that are listening or watching, you can find all of my content at strangeparadigms.com. It is just right there, or on YouTube at Cristina Gomez and Twitter at eyes_on_the_skies. I do want to mention that on this upcoming Tuesday for Shifting the Paradigm, I will be having Thomas Winterton, the superintendent of Skinwalker Ranch. He'll be on the show, and we will be talking a lot about the hitchhiker effect, which is pretty fantastic.
That's awesome. Cristina Gomez, thank you so much for all your help behind the scenes and being such an awesome person. We'll see you next time.
Also, nice hair day. I didn't mention that earlier, but I'm loving the hair.
Oh, what's going on with that?
It's some days they're good, some days not so good, but today's a good day.
That.
So I'll take it as a win. All right, Cristina, we'll see you soon. Jimmy Church,
what's cracking?
What do you got coming up tonight? You're about to do a show. That's why I saved you for last.
Actually, yeah. Bigfoot tonight. I've got Duke Sullivan on from World Bigfoot Radio. He's great. And so we're going to do a full night of Bigfoot. I haven't done a Bigfoot show in a while. And so I'm excited about that. And it's been a fun week.
Lee says, fade to lose stream. I want to see that.
it's quickly turning.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, it would be a fade to lose.
Yeah, it would be where I just suck all the fat out of you and put it into me, and I become even bigger. And then
I think Lou to black.
Lou to black,
pretty good
that's
ring.
Not bad either. Oh my god!
So what do you think, before we get out of here? And I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, man, where'd the day go? What do you think about next Tuesday, man? With these hearings in Congress,
we talked about it yesterday with Jazz. I'm setting my expectations low, so that way if something great happens, we get stoked about it. I think it's the first of many. I think this is gonna sort of open the faucet a little bit to let some more conversations really start happening. And I think you're gonna see a little bit of frustration from what I'm kind of gathering from some of these congressmen, because they want more.
Committee, yeah. And
they want more.
There's a lot of grumblings going around in our circles about this, and some of the frustrations that they have for not having the information that they request. Right, that they're getting stuff watered down and they're not digging it and they're having to fight for it. Well, welcome to the party, right? Yeah. It's just like, this community's been used to this for a very long time. Now, is there going to be a big break? I've got flowers hanging out of my pockets, but I'm hopeful, but I'll be very interested if the Pentagon is going to these two members of the Pentagon, which, by the way, I don't know who they are. Do you?
Yeah, I don't know their names by heart, but we went over their careers yesterday. They're both pretty smart guys. I'm assuming they're guys that probably don't want to answer these questions.
And so which is my point that I was going to mention is, are they going to step outside of a military posture? right? That this is some type of terrestrial technology that we're not aware of, or are they going to step outside of that? Because there's no other area to go in. It's either right. It's either Earth or it's not. Right. It's like, and are they willing to step outside of something that is not of this Earth?
I just think that depends. That depends on the questions that they get from the congressman, from the committee. Well, so I would assume, I'm thinking, I'll tell you what I'm very interested in. I think we're going to get a very good idea of what kind of data points these congressmen are seeing in these classified settings based off of the questions that they're asking. So that's what I'm kind of excited about, because I think we're getting a lot of clues. There's going to be a lot of foilable stuff that comes out of this 1 or 2 day hearing. I'm hearing it could go to 2, so it just depends. It depends. But those are the things I'm excited about. I mean, I would they go out of protocol? Are they going to talk about it being non-human made? Oh, why not?
Well,
I mean, we had Avril Haines say extraterrestrially. I feel like the term has been used in some pretty high places, so we'll see. We'll see.
When you look at Andre Carson, the representative from Indiana, and you specifically look at his tweet yesterday, which to have this verbiage like this, because this is now we are talking, because he says Congress hasn't held a public hearing on unidentified aerial phenomena, UFOs. He puts UFOs in parentheses, so we are clear that we're talking about aliens here. In over 50 years. That will change next week when I lead a hearing in the House Intelligence Committee on this topic and the national security risk it poses. Americans need to know more about these unexplained occurrences. And I don't think you can be any more clear than that. So is that what they're trying to pull out of the Pentagon?
It seems like they're posturing that way. I don't know if that's going to be the main focus, though. I think the main focus of this is going to be aviation safety, because these things are showing up in our training grounds, and that's what the whole Nimitz was. They were doing a training exercise. I think that's the expectation I'm setting. So that way, when they hopefully do get into the conversation that we all want to have, it's a big breakthrough, and hopefully that'll lead to even more hearings. So I'm assuming we're going to get at least one kind of good nugget where we can all go, okay, you see, they're at least acknowledging that this hypothesis is not just like it's being considered at the highest levels of our government. The alien hypothesis or the extraterrestrial hypothesis is literally on the table of these classified briefings. Like, okay, we've gone through this, it's not those things. Can we start talking about this part of it? Because if it's not these, let's have a conversation.
I think this is how it's going to play out, just going off of Representative Carson's attitude that is represented in his tweet from yesterday, in that the Senate Intelligence Committee wants to talk about UFOs. The Pentagon does not, right? The Pentagon wants to talk about safety issues and airspace and security and defending the country. Right. That's going to be the Pentagon's position. Representative Carson's position and the Senate Intelligence Committee are focused on a whole nother thing, which is UFOs. And is this coming? Do we have visitors, from the universe swinging by planet Earth and doing drive-bys? That's what the Senate Intelligence Committee wants to know, and the Pentagon doesn't want to discuss this. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be great. I got my popcorn ready, man.
I think I'm hopeful that you're on the right track, and the reason why I say that is because I think for the first time ever in American political history, the idea of talking about UFOs on a political platform is allowed. It's not political career suicide right now. It's actually the most popular thing that is getting retweeted and tweeted and talked about. Anytime they discuss this, it's the most shared media they put out in their career. So I think they look at that and they go, oh, there's some political power here. There's something I can use here to push other agendas of my platform. So I mean, I was asking Jazz yesterday, do you think we're going to see a political opponent or candidate that this discussion is within their, you know, top 6 of things to talk about while they're on a campaign trail? I don't think it's that far away.
No, the UFO vote is a real vote. And here's the other thing. Representative Carson, who I've got a lot of respect for to be sticking it out like he is right now, but he had 1,042 retweets, 226 quoted tweets, and 4,500 likes. He's never seen that on his Twitter account.
Never.
I
mean, go look at the timeline. Yeah, anytime this comes, I mean, same thing with Gillibrand, same thing with Rubio. They see, like, that's why I get excited about it. That's why I saw the big phone home, and I'm like, this is an opportunity. You see the political winds changing, and a lot of folks are very, you know, pessimistic about that because they saw it happen 50 years ago and nothing came out of it. As a matter of fact, it just got worse. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, look, this hasn't happened in 50 years. In 10 years, am I going to look back at this moment in time and go, well, I didn't do anything, I just bitched and moaned about it? Or am I going to go back and look back at it and say, well, hell, at least I tried.
Yeah,
at least I tried to do something as opposed to nothing. And so I think that, you know, for me, that's the exciting thing. Like, I see the political winds of this discussion changing in real time, just like they did with medical marijuana, just like they did with civil rights. Civil rights, I mean, we're still not even perfected that, and that's been over 300 years.
You're
like,
right.
So, like, you know, also putting this topic into perspective compared to things like that. Like, I think that's important too when we're having the discussion. And I think trying to be a little slicker in our request, I think, is also cool too, because I'm kind of on board with, hey, if the UFO community has a hand in thwarting a terrorist attack with drone swarms, huge win. Like, that's a huge win for us.
Yeah. That's a great point. For me, you know what I'm looking forward to the most out of these hearings is Elon's tweet later that day.
Yeah,
that's going to be an epic tweet.
That's a good point.
That's
a good point. Well, Jimmy Church, man, thanks for hanging out. That was fun. I didn't expect that at the end of the show. I was just going to let you introduce your show and get the hell out of here, man. But great combo. That was fun. Come back anytime, man. The door's wide open.
You're the best, Lou. Thank you, man. Hey, we're going to Skinwalker, Faded Black Jeep.
That sounds like a movie.
Let's get arrested by Brandon. I think that's the goal, man.
That's the goal. Yeah, get arrested by the Skinwalker Ranch security team. Great.
I'll talk to you. Thanks,
Lou. All right, my man. Later. All right, you guys. Well, that was a show. Thank you so damn much. We went over a little bit, but that was cool. Thank you for hanging out, Jimmy Church. All right, you guys. Until next time, I'm not going to say anything. Thank you for coming aboard, getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. Until next time, you guys, stay safe out there. Love you all very much. Peace.